everyone could please take their seats, we will recommence. And welcome back to those of you who are on Zoom as well. We are wrapping up the public part of our retirement summit. We had quite a great session this morning with big ideas, which will follow on now with a fireside chat with Senators Portman and Cardin. But first, before we get started, I want to start with announcing that it is my honor to present the Employee Benefit Research Institute's 2021 Lillywhite Award to Senator Rob Portman and Senator Ben Cardin. The Lillywhite Award honors individuals who made an extraordinary lifetime contribution to Americans' economic security. In the case of Senator Cardin and Senator Portman, both have manifested such a contribution with their timeless and inspirational advocacy and leadership to advance policies to improve the U.S. retirement system. The Senators' longtime efforts have been directed to increasing the pension and saving rate for American workers. In particular, their focus has been workers most at risk, such as low-wage workers, workers at small businesses, and women. They've effectively reached out across the aisle, and as such, Senators Portman and Cardin have sponsored numerous retirement savings and pension bills, major portions of which were incorporated into comprehensive legislation that was enacted into law. These include, of course, the 2006 Pension Protection Act, and more recently, the Retirement Security and Savings Act of 2021, commonly known as Secure 2.0. Senator Portman is retiring soon, and we will miss his leadership. But we look forward to hearing from him and from Senator Cardin in our upcoming fireside chat, where they will address the challenges still ahead, as well as steps needed to better ensure retirement security for American workers. Thank you to Senator Cardin and Senator Portman for all you've done for Americans' economic security, and we are very honored to award you with these Lillywhite Award plaques. Senators Portman and Cardin are joining us virtually, and as they do so, I want to introduce the moderator of the fireside chat. Eric Stevenson is the president of Nationwide, and he will be conducting the fireside chat with Senators Portman and Cardin. Again, thank you, Senators, for all you've done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just before we get started, I'm going to have to leave a little early, and I just wanted to offer just my congratulations and appreciation for all that Lori has done to lead this organization over the last 5 years. Would you all just join me again? Another big round of applause for her leadership. Well, welcome everyone. It is exciting to be here with all of you. It's my pleasure to be able to be a part of EBRI's leadership and to watch this inaugural event take place really under Lori's leadership. Couldn't be more excited about that. It's also our pleasure to be joined by Senators Portman and Senators Cardin today, and really addressing one of the critical issues that our country faces all around retirement security and how do we continue modernizing our system. We know it's a top priority. It's also exciting to see one of the few areas, and it's been said earlier today, that there's bipartisan support and really led by these two gentlemen. So it's a great honor for us to have you both here today. Before we jump into the questions that I have for both the senators, just a couple of remarks I wanted to make, and a couple of things I wanted to highlight that we're all aware of, and you all are aware of, that create some really challenging facts or situations for Americans today. One, I don't need to tell you about how high, where we are with inflation and the pressure that has created on Americans all over this country. Then you add that with market volatility, you add that with the pandemic, and you just look at some of the results, and people really are struggling. And so when we talk about some of the solutions that we just spent the morning talking about, there are a lot of really good ideas there, and we've made so much progress, but we know this past 18 months has really created some pressures that some folks are going to take some steps back. And as an industry, we're going to have to figure out ways to really help them re-engage with this space and this industry. And just to call out a couple of those I wanted to highlight, and we've at Nationwide recently done a couple of surveys, and one of those that we saw in terms of our 401k business, 1 in 10 folks in a 401k plan this year have either stopped or reduced their 401k contribution. 1 in 10. In the 457 space, and now we're still trying to figure out why that's the case, but in the 457 space, the numbers are even more stark. We've seen 45% of people in our 457 or government plans either reduce their contribution or stop their contribution altogether. We've never seen numbers like that. And so just underscoring my point that for people at the higher end of the income spectrum, yeah, that things aren't as bad, but for a lot of Americans, they are really hurting. So this space that we're talking about today and the leadership that we have from the two men that are joining us is really, really important. So with that, why don't we just jump into the questions, gentlemen? And the first one that I'll ask, and you can choose who goes first. And I just, again, thanking you for being here, but I'll share a little bit about why Secure Act 2.0 is so important and why the time is now for its passage. Let's start out with just a foundation question. Why are you so passionate? Why are both of you so passionate about the retirement space? Senator Portman, how about that? I will give some direction. How's that?
All right. Well, first of all, Eric, thank you for having us. It's great to be with EBRI again. You guys have provided us with great data for a couple of decades now. I'm dating us. Maybe it's 3 decades. Ben and I have been partnering on this issue. And you in particular have been very helpful. In fact, it was a lot more fun when I was asking you the questions when you were testifying before the Senate Finance Committee a couple of years ago on retirement savings. So, we kind of like to be peering down on you as a witness instead of you asking us questions. But one of the things you talked about, you may recall, is the need for emergency savings. So you mentioned people not putting as much in. One of the reasons is they may think, gosh, if I've got this money in my 401k and I have an emergency, which could happen in the next several months, it's not already happening to people given where the economy is and given where wages are and inflation is, to be able to know that you can pull some of that out on an emergency basis is helpful. That's part of what we do. But I think this legislation that Ben and I have crafted, which is our 4th bill, I guess, Ben, 4th comprehensive bill, is filling the gaps. And the gaps that I see in retirement savings, among others, are one, people who are working part-time, who are low income, only 20% of whom roughly are participating in retirement plans today. So that's why we expand the Savers Credit in substantial ways. And I think it's very important to have low-income individuals banked and saving. It's good for them, good for our economy. So that's one reason I think we need to do this bill. Another is small businesses. I mean, you look at it today, most of your clients at Nationwide or EBRI clients, companies connected with EBRI generally, if they're big companies, they've got a pretty good plan. They've probably got a 401k with a match. If they're not, if they're a smaller business, let's say under 20 employees, it's very likely that they do not. In fact, more likely than not that they do not have a plan. So roughly 75% of the smaller businesses do not have a retirement plan. Some of them have deferred comp plans, maybe for the executives, or maybe they have people have IRAs, but they don't have that opportunity to really save and have that nest egg build up. So that's why we help on the small business side to provide additional tax credits, additional incentives, additional regulatory relief, including a new plan that's a simple plan for small businesses. And then the third one I'd say is we're worried about my generation, the baby boomers, and we look at people going into retirement without adequate savings, and particularly with regard to COVID, some people did in the Great Retirement choose to leave the workforce, and they just weren't prepared for their retirement. So we do have a catch-up contribution there for people who are, entering into those retirement years in those last, say, 10 years of their working life. We want them to save even more. So that's an example. And the final one, I will say, is helping people who are outliving their retirement. I mean, people are living longer and healthier lives. It's a good thing. And I think, people often will take a 401k benefit and take it as a lump sum, and they find, oh my gosh, I'm living another 20 or 30 years here. How can I afford this? So that's why we support the QLACs. That's why we support dealing with the minimum required distribution. My father was one of those people who worked into his late 70s. He really worked into his 80s, and he always gave me a hard time. I thought you were the retirement guy, Rob. Why are you making me take my money out of my retirement and paying taxes on it when I'm still working? So we have some really good legislation to help with that, not just increasing the age, but also saying if you have less than $100,000 in your account, I hope this ends up in the final bill, that you should not be subject to those requirements. I think that's a simplification, too, that's very important. So it's about people who are part-time, lower-income Americans, about small business where we see real gaps. It's about baby boomers. It's about people being able to save for their retirement. So those are some of the things that Ben and I have tried to do in this latest bill to add on to what we have done already. And look, there's still a lot more to do, but from 2001 when we first started until today, we've had almost a tripling of savings in 401ks and more than a tripling in terms of savings in IRAs. And we're proud of that. And we think that gives a lot of people peace of mind in retirement who otherwise wouldn't have it. So I've talked too long already. But again, thank you guys. I wish I had a crackling fire behind me for this fireside chat, but I do have Ben Cardin with me, who's equally warm.
We know you're proud of that, but we're also grateful for what you've done and how you've led in this space. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, Eric, let me follow up on Rob's comments, if I might. First, thank you and Lori and all the members for this award that Senator Portman and I have received. Ray Lillywhite was known for his work in regards to state pensions and establishing in so many states. And I'm a benefactor of that. I'm a member of the Maryland State Retirement Beneficiary. So it's great to receive an award named after him. So thank you very much for that. Let me make one correction. Rob Portman is not retiring. He may be leaving the Senate, but he's not going to retire. He has shown a tremendous ability to move from position to position. He did this to me once before. When I was in the House of Representatives, we were partners in regards to pension legislation, and he decided that he was going to move on and do some other things, including being a budget director and a USTR. But then he returned to the United States Senate. We worked together, had a chance again. Well, he's leaving the Senate, but I'm sure we're going to continue to find ways to work together. I do want to underscore the point that Rob Portman has been an extraordinarily public servant in so many different ways. He's given so much of his talent to help our country. And it's been a real honor to serve with him in the United States Senate. It's not just been pension issues. We've been involved in so many different areas. But Rob Portman's a serious legislator who takes on tough problems like the challenges at the IRS, challenges such as in our healthcare system. We just had a meeting this morning to deal with the opioid fentanyl addiction issues. Rob Portman's been involved in all of those issues, and he works with Democrats and Republicans because he knows that's how to get things done. And he will be missed in the United States Senate. So, Rob, congratulations. It's always an honor to be associated with you and getting this award and being with you today.
Likewise, my partner. I really appreciate you, Ben. Thank you.
And certainly as a citizen of Ohio, we appreciate that. We feel the same way, Senator Portman. And we have also recorded this. We're going to send this to your wife, what Senator Cardin just said about you. She's going to really love hearing all those remarks. So that was really nice.
Jane knows Rob very well, so she'll be able to sort out what is accurate and not. I assure you of that. It's a great partnership that we both have.
My kids won't believe it.
You've both
I
done
just
so
add
much.
one extra thing here about why we are so passionate on this issue. And that is, we recognize that America's economy is considered to be the strongest in the world. And it is the strongest in the world. And we're proud about that. And when you look at economic indicators, America has always been in the forefront of the positive economic indicators, except in one category. Our national savings rates have always been low. Our retirements, money in retirement accounts have always been low. So that's why we got involved in this originally, is that we wanted to increase retirement security. And we knew that it depended upon making sure we maintain and strengthen the Social Security system and private savings, but retirement savings was critical in order to meet that. And we recognize how Americans behave, and that's the reason why we want more employer-sponsored plans, because we know workers do not like to leave money on the table if there's a match. That's why we developed the Savers Credit, so that there will at least be an additional financial incentive in addition to the tax deferrals. And that's why we went with automatic enrollment, because we know Americans many times make decisions by inaction. So we try to pattern our laws to meet the behaviors of Americans so that we could get more retirement security in this country. And we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And the bill that's pending now is a bill that we take great pride in, and we're going to try to get to the finish line before the end of this year.
Well, let's take our next question where you just ended there, Senator Cardin. In terms of, there's private sector leaders here, there's public sector leaders here in the room, and we're all excited about Secure Act 2.0 as well. What can we do? What would you ask us to do to help you get that across the line?
Well, we would love your help right now. It's the last couple weeks of the session, and the question is, whether we will be able to get this into a package that's otherwise moving, or if not, whether it's popular enough that we could even take it on its own. So talking to your Senate representatives and your House representatives would be awesome. If you come from Maryland or Ohio, you're in good shape, at least with the two of us, but it's important it's important to reach out and let them know this is really essential for not just your businesses, but for the people who, in essence, you represent, which is, as Ben said, folks who need more retirement savings to be able to live the kind of lifestyle that they have been expecting, and to have the peace of mind to know they're not going to run out of their retirement savings during their lifetime. And I grew up in a family business, Eric, a small business, and my dad was adamant about retirement savings. He had worked at Procter & Gamble in his early life, and they have a great profit-sharing plan, so he set one up, and then he set up a 401k as soon as he could. He lost money the first few years, but he just insisted on doing it. And today, I meet guys who I've known my whole life. I was at the company recently where my brother still works, and met with some of the lift truck mechanics who have turned a wrench their whole life, and they've got a huge nest egg, at least by their standards, to be able to use for their retirement. And that's why this is so important, this next step. I talked about the gaps that we all identified, and I think they're addressed well, in addition to some other aspects that Ben rightly talked about. So encouraging people to make this a priority in this crazy end of the session, lame duck session of Congress would be terrific. It's so timely right now. This meeting, I know, wasn't necessarily planned to be at this time, but it turned out to be exactly the right time to do some advocacy on the Hill. So thank you in advance for what you will do, and thanks for what you've already done to give us the data and information to write a good bill and to help us get it to this point.
I do want to underscore the point that Senator Portman made. Thank you for what you've already done. This legislation passed the Senate Finance Committee by a unanimous vote. It passed the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, parts of this bill, by, I think it was a unanimous vote or a near unanimous vote. It passed the House Ways and Means Committee, a very similar bill, by a near unanimous vote. So this is legislation that we've been able to get general consensus, and that's not always been the case. The differences between the House and Senate have been negotiated, and we're very optimistic that a final bill is there. So the challenge is priority. Will this be a priority to get done before the end of the year? Will we have a vehicle in order to attach it to? Will there be an omnibus at the end of this year that will give us an opportunity for tax provisions? Can it be a freestanding bill? These are issues of priorities that we need your help in impressing upon senators and representatives that this should be a priority to get done before the end of this year. I don't believe there's much controversy in the substance of what we've done as from the point of view of any significant opposition. The question is whether it'll be a priority that we can get it accomplished in the days that remain, and you can help us in that regard.
Thank you. You've both done just so much to help us modernize the current retirement system in this country. What would you say that you're individually you're most proud of in your work over the years to get us where we are?
Oh gosh, look, I would say it is simply allowing more people the opportunity to save for their own retirement and all the benefits that come from that. Ben talked earlier about our savings rate and how it affects our economy, so it's a macroeconomic benefit. But the biggest benefit that I see is just people, being able to have a comfortable retirement and being able to help themselves and their family. I mentioned running into a forklift truck mechanic recently who was close to retirement. I ran into one a couple of years ago who was already retired, and I asked him how he was doing, and of course I asked, since I'm such a retirement nerd, I said, of course, how's that 401k and profit sharing doing? Did that work out for you? He said, oh man, it worked out great. He said, no one in my family's ever gone to college, and my granddaughter wanted to go to college, and yet she needed some help, And so I was able to use my retirement, not just for me and my wife, but also for her opportunity to get ahead and to go to college. And I thought that was pretty cool. And so that's what makes me the happiest, is to think that what we have done together, and I mean that everybody in this room, and certainly Senator Cardin, who's been not just a leader and a partner of mine, but he's taken some slings and arrows from his side of the aisle now and again on promoting some of these ideas, particularly 401ks. But we've made a difference in people's lives. So that's the most important thing.
I think I agree with what Rob has said, but I'm going to add that it was then Congressman Portman and Congressman Cardin that set up a process for the very first major pension bill we were able to pass. It was a process of inclusion. All the stakeholders were invited to participate, and we were able to get broad consensus on major changes in the pension laws that made it easier for people, for companies to set up pension plans, including small companies. More the decision making would establish these types of plans. We did a lot to expand the employer-based plans. We did a great deal initially to expand savings opportunities. And we did not have the support of either one of our leaderships. We did this through a process. And Senator Portman is correct. It wasn't without controversy in our parties. There was a great deal of concern as why a Democrat and Republican are working together in a body that was known for its division. But we were able to weather that. So you're looking at, I think, our greatest accomplishment. It was set up a process that could bring different views together, that maintained the bipartisan, nonpartisan nature of our product, and was able to overcome the lack of interest among either one of our party leaders. And that was able to establish a pattern that future pension bills became less contentious and easier to get done as a result of the work that we did in 2000.
When I listen to those responses, 3 words come to mind for me. 1 was vision, 2 was courage, and 3 was leadership to get it done and to stick with it. So we've all benefited from that. We have about 100 or 125 people in the room. We have another 500 people online watching. So to give you a chance now to speak directly to your constituents, any final words of wisdom on retirement security for America's workers?
Ben, go ahead.
Well, first, again, thank you for all your help. We're not finished yet. Rob already mentioned some of the issues that we need to work on. We got to work on catch-up contributions, because we know there's a lot of people early in life that have financial burdens that do not allow them to put the type of resources away for their retirement. We have to work on the lifetime income options to make sure people don't outlive their retirement income, including easing up on the required minimum distributions. We got to find ways to make it easier for people to be able to take care of their retirement needs earlier in life. So we still have work to do, but I tell you, it's been a real, I'm very proud of what we've been able to do over these last 20-some years. And once again, I want to use my last comments to thank Senator Portman for his public service, to tell him he better leave me with a good partner next year in the United States Senate. It's not too late to return. We can figure out a way, but thank you for your public service.
Senator Portman, anything to add? Is he frozen? Did we lose him?
I think he's reconsidering his leaving.
I think you really you put an end to that show, right? He's like, well, are you back? All right. So, well, thank you. Let me just wrap up. Just Senator Portman, Senator Cardin, thank you so much for sharing your valuable time and your insights. We're really grateful for you and all that you're doing to enhance retirement security in this country. On behalf of the audience, nationwide, and EBRI, we applaud your efforts and appreciate your leadership. Senator Portman, I know that you can't hear us, but congratulations on your well-earned and deserved retirement, and thank you for just a legacy of support and leadership over the years. And with that, how about a big round of applause from the audience?
Thanks, everyone.